Welcome to your Daily 5 for Monday, March 17th, 2025. I actually meant to cover this topic a couple of weeks ago, or however long ago the Oscars were, because it was more in the news, but, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not like I was about to say it wasn't all that long ago, but as we know, in the current media cycle and the way that people consume things, 2 or 3 weeks can be years, effectively. But you may remember that in the run-up to the Oscars, there was some controversy around a film titled The Brutalist over the employment of AI correction of dialogue. Now, I had read that there was also something about some building generation at the end, but I don't think people were as concerned about that because that was more of putting something into place that didn't actually exist. I don't think that's what people were really upset about. What it was more focused on was the idea that in the film, Adrien Brody and some of the other actors, in fact, I think many of the other actors, spend a significant amount of the film speaking in Hungarian. And when the film was completed, and even though they had worked with dialogue coaches and had tried to pronounce things as well as they could, to my knowledge, none of the lead actors are actually Hungarian or speak it fluently. Otherwise, I don't know why you would have to do this and have dialogue coaches. But in essence, it was determined that they wanted to have the Hungarian words and accents more accurately reflected. And so some type of AI process, something that a lot of people have pointed out is something you could do in Pro Tools and other audio corrective tools already, was used to basically polish off the way that some of the actors were speaking, if they were not pronouncing things correctly or saying the words the right way. And many people got upset about this, and to the point where some people were saying it shouldn't even be worth Oscar consideration. And this is one of those times where I sit here and go, okay, because I've talked about this before, and I have people who are completely and utterly anti any AI anything, and other people I know who are complete AI accelerationists. And as I've said many times, I find myself in the middle. And I think that most people would probably put themselves in the middle to understand that there's some things that are threats to people and their creativity and indeed to their ownership of their own ideas, but that there are also valid uses for some of these technologies when they are deployed thoughtfully and with the consent of the people that they are being used in concert with. And this feels like one of those latter cases where I'm sitting here going, okay, this is no different, really, if you can just look at this objectively. This is no different than, for example, the original Star Wars film, and as far as I know, this has never been corrected. In the original Star Wars film, there is a scene early on where stormtroopers are entering a room. It's a famous movie mistake, and one of the stormtroopers hits his head on the ceiling and makes this weird little noise. Now, at the time the movie was made, they had no real way to correct that because they didn't have enough money to reshoot it, and honestly, they probably didn't even notice it until editing, but they weren't going to go back and fix it. Today, you would be able to correct that with some kind of generative tool, and no doubt would. They remove safety wires. They do all kinds of different things that are small special effects in the background because the director has a vision and wants to perfect it as much as possible. So were that error to be removed in the modern climate, I'm sure people would lose their minds over it diluting the purity of the scene. And they've said similar things about Adrien Brody's performance, but by anything I can find, there's no account showing that Brody or any of the other actors had any opposition to this, and I haven't seen anything indicating that there was any effect on the performance. This was literally just correcting pronunciation, and in fact, you can go back and find many cases where the people who are considered the top movie critics would criticize when accents weren't as accurate as they should have been. Now, is it reasonable, really, to expect dialogue coaches in a production to grind to a halt until they can make an actor speak a foreign language fluently when they may never have to do it again? Or does it make more sense that if they got the actual acting performance they wanted, the facial expressions, the emotion in the sound of the voice, which is, let's be honest, more important than the words, is it more reasonable to think that, okay, we'd like this word to sound better to those who speak the language, so we'll just fix that in post, not through dubbing, which sometimes doesn't work, or through simply leaving in a bad pronunciation, which can be embarrassing for an actor, but we've got what we actually need. Let's just round off the edges of this thing. Again, I don't think this is unreasonable, and this is where being an extremist about something damages your position. There are real concerns over these tools and what they can do to creative individuals, but I'm sorry, making somebody pronounce something in Hungarian in a better way than they normally would is not one of them, and this is not a hill that we should die on. Later.